I think it's important to share contact information. Where the title is really 10 engagement strategies. When I got wind of the title, I reached out to Schoology Ambassadors. I reached out to family members. I reached out to my wife, who's a second grade teacher. Reached out to people that I work with, and I reached out to students. And I said, if you were presented with this type of question, what would make your top 10 list? So just showing this slide, so you can get to these slides. There's a short URL at the bottom. And what I'm hoping is that in the chat that's going on today, people will have suggestions of strategies of their own, or they'll post questions and things like that. We'll add to this slide deck following the presentation. So that way, hopefully no question gets unanswered, and hopefully we accumulate some really great ideas along with the ones that have been shared already. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what engagement. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of the word engagement, but I don't know that there's something better that's out there. And during this time, we're talking about engagement. We're trying to reach kids that aren't right in front of our face. And the statistics out there aren't very good, frankly, as far as our ability to reach kids and keep them engaged in their classroom activities and whatnot. So I think it's important. What is engaging? And if you reflect upon yourself, what do you find engaging? And thesaurus.com talks about engaging, and it uses the other words like alluring, appealing, attractive. And so, are those appropriate words in this day and age? Is what you're offering kids captivating? And if not, it's a good reason to ask them, what do they find captivating or interesting and engaging? So important to know what engaging really means. I don't know if I can come up with a better word right now, but it just means, we're really enticing people. We're really trying to motivate people and keep them involved with what we're offering. As I mentioned, the headlines out there, the statistics right now, is that the number of kids that are not engaging with what is being offered online. Okay. And if you really think about the times we're living in right now, can you hardly blame them? But as I saw those statistics, I also thought, a question long ago that George Couros posed at a conference was, if kids weren't required to go to your class, what would they still show up? And that was kind of a profound question. It definitely had me thinking about what it is that brings people together, keeps them engaged, keeps them interested, keeps them motivated, and those things. As I dug into the question a little deeper, I remembered a Gallup poll from a few years ago, that was specifically about student engagement. And you can see from the graph there that student engagement and school satisfaction is pretty, 3/4 of our fifth graders have a real fondness for school. But then you'll see our 10th and 11th graders, not so much. And now that statistic there parallels what we're seeing now with our e-learning, our distant learning activities, our efforts in those regards. So even though the environment has changed, the statistics have not. So engagement is still, regardless of setting, engagement is still a critical issue to teachers and students. Beginning our 10 themes, I reached out, as I said, to Schoology Ambassadors, and the first person to reply, no surprise to me, was a friend of mine, Stephen Rea. And he says that during the times such as these where we're e-learning and we're using all this technology, it's still very important for kids to understand that we're all human, and our teachers are human too. And what he elaborated on in discussing this was that kids need to see your voice, see your picture, and hear your voice. All right, there's a number of tools, as the poll indicated. Some of you are already using video conferencing, you're already using recordings, and that's a great practice because the kids need to see you. The students I've talked to, they have echoed the same sentiments. They want to see their classmates, they want to see their teacher, they want to hear a voice, they want to know that there's human interaction happening. A piece of that that's also important is to know that being human, we're going to make mistakes, and are, much like I'm stammering a little bit right now, we're not going to be perfect with our videos. We're not going to be perfect with our delivery of e-learning, and that's okay. We're asking our kids to take risks and stay engaged. And I think it's important for their instructors, their administrators, their parents, all to model that same sort of risk taking and that humanness to this adventure we're in. My partner at home, my wife, Natalie Schuetz, when I posed the question to her over dinner, said, it's critical that you do what you can to maintain relationships. And when she elaborated on that, she explained some things that she's doing to help with relationships. She's taken pictures throughout the year of her kids. She's building yearbooks. And even though the likelihood of classes getting back together this year are remote, she's going to find a way to deliver tote bags to each of the students' homes that'll have like their picture book and a little beanie baby and a little other tokens of things that they've accumulated through the school year. She makes it a point to video chat with them daily, and she says that she loves her students and they love her back. And so even in the best of times, sometimes getting kids motivated and enthused about school can be difficult, but it's a much easier pull, as we all know, when there's a relationship established. If I can piggyback to what Stephen Rail was explaining before, with regards to humanness and his relationship building, is that he'll send out a short video at the beginning of the week, kind of explaining what the objectives are for the week, checking in with the kids, how's he doing, how are they doing, and he always tries to have something fun. So one of the fun things he's doing recently is to have, sort of what are the kids' talents or superpowers. So basically inviting them to create a short video clip showing what talent they have, whether it be, doing card tricks or they're able to show off the latest dance moves, what have you. So right there, that humanness and that relationship building, I think, is right at the forefront of trying to keep kids engaged with what we're doing regarding schools. Melissa Riggs also chimed in, and she thought that giving learners of any age, frankly, a chance to reflect, a chance to think about what's happening, not only school-wise, but what's going on in their lives right now, and journaling about it. I think this is a critical piece because this is a way that teachers can find out those challenges, those special circumstances that kids have that might need, they might need special consideration with regard to schoolwork. They might need extra services that are offered through the school. So I think journaling and providing opportunities for students to reflect upon, how is their life going right now? What are they thinking about COVID-19? What are their thoughts about flattening the curve? Things like starting a conversation. And I think the conversations are important. I think the reflection's important. And I think other than having, the mandated curriculum and the books and whatnot, I think giving kids a chance to express themselves during these times, after all, they are living part of history right now. I think that's a critical piece in all this. Danny Patterson, also a Schoology Ambassador, chimed in. Her term was voice and choice. And those of you that know her or have seen her present or talk, that she's a champion of empowering kids and giving them choices. Caitlin Tucker is a great follow on Twitter right now. She's sharing things like choice boards, and she's sharing ways in which you can set up stations remotely so the kids have a variety of things to do. They can gravitate towards activities where their strengths are or where their comfort level is. They can demonstrate their knowledge in a number of ways. As far as the voice part, we kind of touched base on that with the reflective piece from the last slide, that giving kids a chance to express themselves, to tell their stories. What are they experiencing right now? What ways are they getting involved in helping their communities? What do they think about social distancing? So giving kids a chance to express themselves and empowering them in this time is a key piece to keeping them engaged. There's a number of colleagues that I work with presently. We're called the e-learning task force, and it's about 7 or 8 of us that are teachers that have a pretty deep experience with e-learning and blended learning. And we were called together in the middle of March to kind of help facilitate the onboarding of distance learning and e-learning for our district, and in particular for our school. So a couple of things came when I posed them with this question. The first one was to keep things simple, that we don't really know the extent of what families and kids are dealing with at home right now. All right, so not to heap too much on them, not too much change. And granted, there's tremendous change going on. Let's not pile on to that. But one of the other things they said was that to help kids craft the beautiful questions. What are they curious about during this time? What are they apprehensive about? What do they want to ask about? And then kick those questions around so that the classmates can chime in on one another with suggestions, ideas, strategies, things that they're dealing with. But important for kids to have an avenue to get their questions out. And then those questions, miraculously, more often than not, will turn into guidance for conversations, for storytelling, for some really meaningful learning that has emotion tied to it, things that they'll remember for quite a while. They may not remember the spelling list, they may not remember Pythagorean theorem or photosynthesis, but they're going to know that their teachers cared about them and were really concerned about what's going on in their heads, what's going on in their hearts. So inquiry, let's put that at the forefront of a strategy. Phil Pulley chimed in a couple of times. He was on this chat last week, I believe, and he mentioned feedback, and he discussed having badges and a way to visually let kids know that he appreciates their staying engaged with their schoolwork and with the classroom activities during the pandemic. Another thing I like is Phil's always very conscious to make sure that kids are getting specific feedback and pointed feedback, things that are targeted towards individual goals and progress towards those goals. He give them not only the marks that you would typically give in a grade book or whatever, but he's also given commentary, either a video or voice, and he's given specific feedback to kids to help them grow, to help them improve in whatever it is they want to improve upon. So he's a person I really appreciate that puts an extra effort into making sure that kids get consistent and ongoing feedback to their school and classroom activities. If they're gonna, put themselves out and do the work for you, then I think they deserve to get the extra feedback attention. Another Schoology ambassador, Brian Bruggeman, mentioned authenticity. He is a music teacher, and so these times offer some kind of unique challenges for his students in that he needs to find ways for them to demonstrate skills. I think this is really appropriate for many of us, but for him in particular, he's put himself out there to say, here's different ways that we can highlight how kids are enhancing their skills. What are they working on? What are they practicing on? And it could be something as simple as they're practicing a recital and they've uploaded a short video to Schoology's course media album, okay, which is an excellent place for them to post a short video clip and then also get some formative feedback from their classmates as well as from Brian himself. Another method for doing that could be a discussion board where they're analyzing a piece of music that they're preparing to practice and master. So Brian is big upon authenticity when it comes to skill and performance, and also authenticity when it comes to audience. So how are we sharing knowledge? How are we contributing to the betterment of others? Does the audience extend beyond just the walls of the classroom and the walls of our schools? Billy and Trevor, you don't know them. They are my stepson and son, respectively. They are home from college, and right now they're finishing their courses online. And so I asked them for their, I asked how are your courses going, and they both chimed in saying, well, 45-minute lectures, they're kind of dry. There's no, there's a short quiz afterwards, but it's really kind of basic and dull and, difficult to churn through. So as you would guess, being in their early 20s, they would much prefer to play League of Legends to jump into their coursework. But specifically, they were looking for interaction, that there wasn't interaction. The recordings were kind of dry. They were looking for, much like Kelly did for you, a poll or something to engage and interact with other opinions of other classmates, things like that, to actually have conversations about the content. So, you know, a lot of you are LMS users, or you have established your sort of central digital hub for kids and your stakeholders to meet. The research isn't extensive, but what's out there is, what I've come to learn is that if the LMS is used primarily as just a container for assessments and assignments, then it really lacks the drawing power of an LMS that's used for interacting with other people and communicating and sharing stories and posting to a discussion board. So when we're talking about building a community and building relationships, the interaction is really a key piece of this. And so Billy and Trevor chimed in pretty vocally about how their college experiences could be improved if their professors offered more in the way of interaction. Glenn Irvin chimed in. Actually, he's a frequent follower of mine, and I know many of you know him as well. And he mentioned community, and he's very big on having a welcoming place for his students and his learning stakeholders, if you will, a welcoming place for them to go. And when he says community, it could mean a lot of different things, but what it rang true for me was where is that central meeting place? Okay, I brought up an example a few weeks ago on the ambassador chat, but when you go to a theme park, you go to the zoo, or go someplace and you go there with the kids and you say, if we get separated, where is the meeting place? And then we all agree, okay, we're all going to meet right back here for lunch in front of the Ferris wheel. Okay, so he's big on knowing that and sharing that you're establishing a place. It's a meeting place for people. It's a welcoming place for people. It's part of building a community. And think about your own communities right now. How are you helping others? How are you engaging with others, even from a distance? And what are the activities and what are the dispositions that are needed to build community? And so Glenn is very big on that and making a community type of feel within the digital learning realm. And then I'm coming back to Kelly, because Kelly is big on focusing on learning. In particular, what I'm hoping she's going to chime in on is that she's very good on different types of research and different acronyms and things like that to help describe the why we should put learning front and center. And in particular during these times, I don't know who to attribute the quote to, but somebody said that adapting to change is learning. We're learning and growing. We're getting confronted with interesting and sometimes dangerous new challenges. And how are we handling it? How are we changing our behaviors? What are we learning from those experiences? So I put that as 10 to come full circle, that I think it's the humanness is definitely rings strong with me, and also the point that to keep a focus on the learning as well, and that the learning is happening all the time. It's happening every day, even though we're not within the walls of our schools.
So is that back to me, Bob?
Yeah, do you feel comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, I think one of the challenges that we're having is we're facing so many changes in so many levels right now. I was thinking about this. People have often attributed change to loss, that there's like a grieving process. So when you think about the amount of things that we've had to change, our routines, our social lives, we have people losing their lives. Like we're facing such incredible losses at one time. And I think that, when we think about that in terms of people now having to change how learning is happening, fundamentally, I think what is so important about what Bob shared today is probably the most important thing we can think about right now is how to connect with each other and to bring those experiences into a place where kids feel, basically safe in what's happening. And that's really challenging right now. And so I've been torn because I think there's a pressure to keep content going and keep learning going. And I think that that's so hard when we're facing all these other things. So, one thing Phil Pulley said last week was, really keep things simple. So when you do want to do something in terms of learning, especially now when we have students that didn't sign up for this, students that sign up for online courses have a certain preparation level to do that. So we have to ease everyone in. And I've heard a lot of, grace and understanding, which, I appreciate, hearing from people. But I think that when we think about, learning is change, as we ease in and we do things in small chunks, or we help kids connect with each other and do authentic things and have a way to communicate, we'll be able to get to the content learning part that we want. I just don't know how much we can expect right now to be happening. I don't think we're going to be able to replicate what we would have done the last 2 weeks in class digitally. I don't know, Bob, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree, and it's a common theme with our leadership meetings and our meetings with my colleagues is that, replicating school isn't realistic, right? But
Yeah.
Staying connected, letting your kids know that you care about them, that you have an avenue for them to communicate. Definitely, what you said rings true. It echoes what we've been discussing here in Illinois. Can I ask you a question, Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you learning these days?
Okay. Patience. No, just kidding. I'm always learning that one. I've actually been trying to do a lot of learning about, I think that the social emotional learning aspects have been really bubbling up lately. I think that that's becoming more, I think, critically important now than ever. And so I'm trying to learn more about how do we help support that? And part of that, I had this great opportunity, and we'll share this. We have a video of it. I got an opportunity to interview a principal who's in Hong Kong at the Hong Kong International School, David Loveland, last week. And so they're about 2 months ahead of us on this whole process. And, he was sharing things that they did that they thought they had done well. And one of the things he said that they realized, they were really good about polling students. So you know how, Bob, you said, like, check in with kids, like have that human connection. They were really good about having a process to check in with kids every couple of weeks, just seeing how things were going. And he said, what happened was we found that kids were just incredibly sad. They're missing each other, they're missing, and especially the kids who might be seniors right now, whether that's college or high school, you have this buildup in your head for what that might mean. And so he talked about the importance of doing things that built up kind of a fun, like, feel. So and I can't remember if it was their student council, I have to go back and look, but they started doing fun kind of challenges every week to try to, like, combat that really natural, I think, sadness that I think not only are kids feeling it, I think adults are feeling it too. I mean, we miss the kids we see every day. We miss our colleagues. And so anyway, when you said, what am I learning? I think I'm learning more about how critically important that social aspect is for what we do. So what about you? What are you learning?
Oh, I agree. I'm learning more about special education than I ever thought I'd need to
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean? I have gained a whole new appreciation for their world,
Yeah.
and frankly, to see my wife at home working on hours each day on material and activities for second graders, it makes me wonder how some families are able to keep it going.
Yeah.